get here?
Why is the first question we always ask each other? What do you do?
What do I do? Well, what time of day are we talking about here? I would prefer to say I'm an actor. I've wanted to be an actor since I was a little kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old. I don't remember it ever coming into my head. It's more like it was just always there.
Melissa from Massachusetts.
When you're a kid who wants to be in movies or on Broadway, people tend to think it's kind of cute. You know, this kid is going to be a star or something. I grew up watching my favorite television and movie scenes over and over again. And I loved studying how an actor might swallow hard before confessing to the crime, or how the beautiful girl in the love story would blink away tears of joy before glancing away for a few calculated seconds, and then gazing full on at her true love. I would actually practice these things in my mirror, in my bedroom, until they felt natural and real. And when I was acting out a story for my family or my stuffed animals, it felt like making magic. But then when I got older, people's reactions changed. So instead of, oh, you're going to be a star, it was, well, I'm sure you can always act on the side, but it would probably be smart to find something a little more stable to fall back on. See, most of my family growing up were farmers, and I watched my uncles and my grandpa work in the fields in the heat, in the downpours, blizzards. They followed in my grandpa's footsteps, and he followed in his grandfather's footsteps. So wanting to become an actor as a kid felt like forging this completely foreign path. It was sometimes really scary, sometimes deliciously thrilling, and always hard, but always worth it, and always with a day job supporting me. My day jobs over the years, some of them include a lumberyard receptionist, a waitress at Bob Evans, a substitute teacher, a catering assistant, and a surgical scheduler at a cancer center. In the past, I haven't really liked to talk about most of my day jobs. It's like, well, why can't we talk about acting? About how that makes me feel? About what it feels like to create something with a group of people on stage? But it's never been how I make my money, so I guess I'm just afraid that people aren't interested in it. But how can I explain all of this to someone when I just meet them and they say, oh, hi, what do you do?
I'm a communications manager at a nonprofit organization.
Kate from Massachusetts.
Well, my sophomore year in college, I was still undecided, and, well, my academic advisor just hated me. And she blocked me from registration until I declared a major, and in her words, became someone else's problem. And I can remember at the time there was this elective that I really wanted to take, and I basically had a week to find a program. And I didn't think it would really be a problem because I was basically done with a history major already. But when I got to the history office, the person who needed to sign my paperwork was in Belgium for 2 weeks. So I went running back to my dorm room, and when I got there, I can remember one of my roommates said, you know, you volunteer a lot, go be a human services major. To be honest, I didn't even know what that was, but I really didn't feel like I had any other ideas. I thought it would be a Band-Aid, you know? I thought I would declare the major, register for my classes, and then drop it. But when I got there, the woman who met with me was so lovely. And then I felt so guilty that I decided I'd just, you know, take the intro class. But then I had a professor who was wonderful and coursework that challenged me and scared me in the best ways. And I've been working at nonprofits ever since. It's strange to think you end up somewhere because someone was in Belgium. But my focus was really never on a specific job. It was just on making sure I had one. I was pretty sick until I was 26 years old, and I can remember being worried all the time that I was never going to be able to take care of myself. And at 23, when most of my friends were starting their first jobs and traveling abroad, I spent that year unable to get out of bed. So for me, I guess, so much of what it means to be successful has been about staying independent. And that meant finding a job I could do no matter how sick I got. I just started working more and for a long time, I didn't realize that my refuge had started to become my whole life. But I got healthy a few years ago, and it's been a complete blessing and also really confusing because all of these limitations are suddenly gone, but I've never really spent much time thinking about what I want for my life. And I don't know if work is supposed to be something that I love or where it fits, and I don't know what success means anymore. But I know that I want a life that's much bigger than work. I've started to dance the Argentine tango and to travel and to write plays. And I'm really, really eager to talk with people about all of these adventures that I never thought I would ever have. But when you meet people, it's always about what do you do? And that question makes me feel like people think that's the most important thing about me. And I hate it because while I'm figuring this all out, I just want to be seen as anything else.
Are we supposed to find our joy ourselves in our work, or are we supposed to keep it at an arm's length? I mean, is it an inextricable part of who we are, or is it just something we do to pay the bills?
We started talking to our own people about this. And then we contacted meetup groups, college organizations, community centers, job training programs, veterans organizations, senior groups, churches, mosques, and farming associations, all to see how people feel their work affects their lives.
After 186 emails and one very awkward day interviewing people at a local mall, we had spoken to 40 people from all across the country, and we asked each person the same 13 questions.
What do you do for a living?
How did you get here?
How do you describe your job to other people?
What's the biggest stereotype, positive or negative, that people have, number one, about your job, and number two, about you because of your job?
Do you play a character at work?
What do you get from what you do?
If you could do anything for a job, what would it be?
What's your philosophy about the role work should play in your life?
Where do you draw your sense of self? Or if it's easier to answer, what are you most proud of?
What does success look like for you at work, in your life?
What do you think the message of the American dream is? Does it influence you at all?
What advice would you give to someone graduating high school?
And lastly, if you returned home for a high school reunion or a family reunion, what's the question you most wish people would ask you?
These stories are what they told us in their own words.